Jeff, welcome to the lab. You really need no introduction, but I'm sure through your talk you can tell us more about yourself, what brought you to this project, and we're all really looking forward to seeing your films. Thank you.
Thanks, Parmesh, for that beautiful introduction. Thanks again for allowing me to speak here. I really had no idea that I would be standing here like this, but it's a really great. This is an amazing space and really good venue for promoting work like this. So I'm really happy to be presenting this stuff for the first time here in Mumbai in front of your eyes. So I'll introduce my work and I'll present it in a typical sort of academic way, and then I will show you approximately 5 videos that have been incorporated into the project. The footage is going to be used to make a feature-length documentary. As they exist right now, they're all a series of short videos, about 5 to 8 minutes long, that are posted on the Fulbright MTV website, which I can show you later. And please, visit the website and take a look at the videos and comment on the blog and involve yourself, because that's what this is about. And that's what the Culture Lab is about. So woohoo! Good marriage. So I guess I just will start. So in Indian media, the image, I don't know if you've seen these types of images before, but the image of the dancing Hijra once signified her shamelessness, her vulgarity, or lack of training or skill. Although dance in India is discursively tied to nationalism and globalization, Hijra dance is more often taken as improvised, unregimented, and unchanging street dance. My film work, which is tied to my PhD work at UCLA, unpacks these stereotypes and misconceptions for a discussion of how members within the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, LGBTQ, and Hijra communities in Mumbai are defying these once commonly held superstitions about queerness through the practice of newly emerging music and traditional music in new contexts. So essentially turning it into an art form that can then be appreciated. The music and dance of India's queer communities express important, essential features of modern Indian identity. LGBTQ and Hijra individuals perform music and dance in various styles, incorporating a mix of contemporary Bollywood, Indian classical, folk music, including Hijra acoustic Badai performance, and Western pop and rock, like what you see here. In most cases, the communities use music to construct and negotiate identities with the context of formal concerts, social gatherings, political protests, and in some cases religious rituals, simultaneously contesting and reaffirming their marginalized status within mainstream Indian society. In 2012, I was one of 4 grantees to have been selected for the Fulbright MTVU Fellowship to develop a documentary about how music and dance within Mumbai's LGBTQ communities serve as sites of resistance and self-affirmation, helping to strengthen and empower their individual and collective voices. The project was given its stamp of approval by music idols Foster the People, B.O.B., J. Cole, and Diplo, as well as the presidentially appointed J. William Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board. And now at the Godrej India Culture Lab, thanks to Parmesh and his incredible team, I have the amazing opportunity to be able to present the fruits of my labor in this first public presentation. So since the nullification of Section 377 in 2009, which was the 200-year-old bill that effectively criminalized homosexual practices, India has seen a rising level of media exposure given towards issues of gender and sexuality. My project for Fulbright MTVU is to develop new and original material in character-driven, feature-length documentary form that demonstrates how this growing public attention, reinforced by political activism through India's NGO sectors and newly budding private sectors, have given way for LGBTQ communities to deploy informal or more traditional social practices of music and dance that you saw earlier into a more formally organized performance sphere. thereby turning traditionally exploited art forms, like Hijra dance, into new important spaces for the survival of India's marginal queer communities. For most of these musicians and dancers, the fundamental practice of music and dance provide the necessary tools for identity development, helping them to personally and collectively navigate tradition and global modernity in Mumbai's urban landscape. So the documentary works a bit differently than most. Generally, doc films are made in a series of 4 relatively isolated stages. Pre-production, meaning 1, which is research, essentially, and scouting. Then there's production, which is actual filming. Post-production, which is editing, color correction, all of that. And distribution, or outreach. You guys can see that, right? Okay. My project incorporates simultaneous production, post-production, and outreach, which is essentially fancy for you get to see it when it happens. Throughout the 2012-13 period, I've been here since October, and since then, I maintained a monthly blog of my work on the Fulbright MTV website. The blog entries will generally have 5 to 8 minute long videos along with written synopses of the performances and my experiences filming them. And so far I have about 11 videos up, one of which features Prince Manvendra Singh Gohil, whose video I'm planning to show you today. In addition to Prince Manvendra Singh Gohil, this is on the upper, starting from the upper left, the Dancing Queens, which is Mumbai's premier transgender dance contingent, essentially, which is made up of groups of Hijras, transgenders, trans men, lesbians, kotis, gay men, all kinds of people. On the right, upper right, is Alisha Pais, a amazing singer and guitar player, I think mostly singer. Lower left is the Flash Mob, Mumbai's first queer flash mob, that last year made its debut performance on the streets on Marine Drive, I think, which I was able to film. And then on the lower right is Rohini from Dirty Talk, which is an amazing organization that promotes works that are a little cutting edge, and as the name suggests. On the upper left, I produced 2 videos about the Kuwagam Mela, where a bunch of actually Mumbai-based transgenders went. Kuwagam is a very important annual religious festival where transgenders from all over the country go, mostly from the south, but many from the north go there as well. The footage there was incredible. On the upper right is an amazing singer who I was able to find. He's from Pondicherry, his name's Gopi, and he wants to come here. So his story is about wanting to break it, wanting to make it big in Bollywood, as well as Hollywood, which is in the south. And he sings amazingly. He sings like an old playback singer, S. Janaki. Amazing. Lower left is, her name is Rezel Vera, and she's a part of a group called Zia Rez, which is 20-something-year-old lesbian band that are just starting to get their feet on the ground. And they're really great. And then on the lower right is an image from this event called Resist, which was a part of an art tour all throughout India. That started just after the rape case in Delhi. And I actually think this was probably my favorite video. And so I'm going to show that one to you. The idea behind simultaneous production, post-production, and distribution is, on one hand, to build audience support throughout production. That means you. Using transparency and presentations about its process, like this one, to increase interest. And it's especially helpful for low-budget filmmaking. So if you're in the middle of a documentary and you need a way to make money for it, or build an audience, this might be a good way of doing it. Number 2, it's to involve participants more directly in the making of the feature length of the film. So to involve people like Rezel and other performers in sort of the process of not only shooting but of editing and how this is going to fit. I call it more of a democratically organized sort of film production, so it involves everyone who decides to be on camera. a little bit more directly. And then it also is, it allows for the film to more directly catalyze change in the lives of both of its participants and also the people who watch it. So it's, in a way, the project is meant to both be about them, but also for them and with them, the people who are involved. And actually, when I was here, I also helped organize stage performances. This is a performance that I helped organize at Bonobo, which is in Bandra, with Zia and Rezel again, the group that I told you about earlier. And it actually helped get the attention of some talent scouts as well. So since that concert, which I'm very proud of, they were able to go on tour. I can't wait to see what they do next. Oh, and I also play violin, and so I played with them as well. I'm a violin player. I was trained in Western classical since the age of 8. But I learned Indian classical with my now guru since 2004. And that's how I got interested in India as a country, and also more specifically Indian music. And I made my first trip to India in 2008, where I visited I traveled with my guru to his house in Kolkata and stayed and lived with him and did the whole Guru Chela, Guru Shisha music experience thing, which was really life-changing. But it was actually there that I encountered a Hijra for the first time, and I wanted to know more. So I later came back to Mumbai in 2010 to conduct field work within the Hijra community in Mumbai. That, I think, was more or less a life-changing experience, because right after that, I went back to Los Angeles, where I'm now, and met the subject of my documentary Rites of Passage, named Maya Jaffer, who's actually Indian, but she lives in Los Angeles. And I made a documentary about her sex change, followed her to Bangkok, where she did the procedure and everything like that. So I got a sort of very first-hand experience through that whole transition. And for her, it was much more than just a physical one. It was emotional, spiritual, everything. So yeah. I could get into all of this. This is a chart of the MSM diagram as illustrated by Ashok Rokavi from the Humsafar Trust. MSM is a term that is more or less universally recognized all over the world by HIV/AIDS NGOs in their treatment of health cases, basically. It's meant to identify all men who may either identify as gay, bisexual, or otherwise, as well as those who identify as straight, but nonetheless engage in some aspects of homosexual behavior in order to better treat HIV/AIDS cases, because in fact the highest prevalence of HIV and AIDS is among this population that reportedly states they're straight but engages in homosexual behavior and then spreads HIV/AIDS to their wives, etc. So you get the idea. This diagram is really actually very descriptive, and it has lots of different components in there. So definitely check it out. I think it's online on the Humsafar Trust website. Again, my project is not about sex. It's not about that at all. It involves people who incorporate their sexuality, their gender identity, or variants of it, even if they're heterosexual or not, into their arts and into their music as a way of communicating through art who they are. Most of the people who are incorporated into this project consciously incorporate their sexual and their gender identities in the larger fabric of their lives and artistic practices. And for many, music was a crucial aspect in their self-awareness and their process of self-discovery, especially as in the case of Prince Manvendra Singh Gokul, as well as Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi, who's depicted here. Her dance was a very formative part of her coming out, essentially, as Hijra. And indeed, it is the movement from a state of undifferentiated unconsciousness towards self-awareness and the ability to think self-reflexively that is one of the distinguishing economies of individuation and by extension modernity. And just as it happens in identity development, so too could this self-awareness manifest in one's artistic practices or music. And for music and dance practitioners, this could manifest in many ways, including a standardization of labeling of movements or compositions, writing stuff down that they then call their own. So, you know, the image of the dancing hijra that you saw earlier, that if she was fully aware that what she was doing was and could be appreciated by an audience, she could turn that into something that could be captured by them. And this is part of the process, is labeling her dance moves as her own or inspired by someone else. Number two, the development of learned pedagogy. So if you're talking about a dance group, again, you're talking about a choreographer who is teaching specific moves to the members of their groups. And number three, some groups or individuals may also have a message they want to convey. Some of these groups have very specific agendas, not in a bad way, but very specific messages that they want to communicate through their dance and through music, as well as the construction of an actual stage, which is probably the most important thing. So, you know, when you're thinking of traditional Hijra Badai performance, there's no stage really. They just sort of slip in and out of the context, either whether it's a marriage or a store opening or something like that. They just slip in and out, gather funds and leave. But at least as the dancing queens are concerned, there's an actual stage that they perform on, and you sit like an audience, just like you are right now, and watch, you know, these dance moves unfold. Keeping this in mind, I wanted to look at the Dancing Queens again, one of the groups with which I have spent a lot of time with. And this is Avina, who is the head of the Dancing Queens. She's the founder of the Dancing Queens. In October, the Dancing Queens held auditions at the Humsafar Trust, an HIV/AIDS NGO for the MSM communities in Mumbai, to prepare for their performances planned during the 4th annual Mumbai Queer Azadi March, which I hope you guys heard about in media. It was held, I think, in early February or late January. And in front of a row of esteemed judges, including the transgender personality Lakshmi Narayan Chakraborty, who I picturized earlier, each of the contestants danced their practice repertoires to popular Bollywood tunes.
Color of my face, color of my hands, the color of my name has so many shades you can't understand. You seem to think you know me, yet all you see is brown. The more you seem to know me, the less I seem to be what I'm about. You think you know what I'm saying before I can open my mouth, like how you know what I'm feeling before they even come out. I wonder now where we stand. The more we want, the less we have. The things we see are said to each other, out of spite, out of hate, they will.